Hi, I'm Tessa, a veteran educator working in the field of special education.
And I'm Kim, mom of two autistic boys and a late diagnosed autistic person myself.
And welcome to Totally Over the Spectrum, where we dive into embracing autism through understanding and support.
Hi, and welcome to episode 50, where we are talking about embracing our authentic selves.
This is so exciting. I like this one. I thought we could start with a definition.
As always.
Okay. Do you have a definition?
I didn't put down a definition today.
Okay. So all the research that I did on authentic self, boy, is it a huge market. On seminars, it was just like OMG. But there you go. Authentic self. To be your authentic self is to align your thoughts, words, and actions with your true inner self, including your core beliefs, values, and desires, rather than conforming to external pressures or expectations. It involves your self-awareness, acceptance of your imperfections, and the courage to express your true opinion, make decisions that reflect your values, and set healthy boundaries both personally and professionally.
I don't think anybody ever follows that completely. That can't be right. Like, it can't always be your true self all the time and expect there not to be consequences. Like, a certain level of masking, everybody does. So even your professional self is masked a little bit for neurotypical people, right?
Yeah, I think everybody puts masks on, whether it goes from a personal setting to a professional setting, right? So you have to mask in a certain way. So what is your authentic self?
I think knowing who you are, aside from limiting yourself in certain social situations, would be self-acceptance.
Okay.
Does that not make sense?
To a certain part, but you're not being authentic if you're only allowing yourself to be who you are in one particular setting where you feel safe and secure.
If you like to swear, and that is part of your authentic self, you're not going to go to the office and drop the F-bomb every third word because it's not acceptable in
I
a
agree with
professional
that.
setting. But when you're outside of the office, that could be part of your vocabulary more often than not. So does that mean you're not being your authentic self? I think you still know who you are. You're just modifying it a little bit for certain settings. I think self-acceptance is about you accepting who you that's part of your vocabulary, that's part of how you speak, and that's how you choose to speak, and you're just not going to do that work because you like working.
Okay. All right. Okay, I see where you're going with this. What else?
I think that it can be really hard to know who you are when you mask all the time. I think at some point you might lose sight of who you actually are because society makes it incredibly difficult for you to be that person without there being consequences and repercussions.
Okay.
So if you have a good home environment and you get to go home and be your authentic self, then that probably gets to recharge you to go back out and mask to whatever degree you need to in society. But if you don't have support at home, I think that's going to make life incredibly difficult.
So I think this brings in another aspect of what is a definition of what support at home is, right? Because support at home is dictated by culture, religion, your own set of values and beliefs. So that definition changes depending upon where you are in the world. So that makes it, that puts another element of who you actually are. So it just amplifies the fact that when when we are tourists, we conduct ourselves in a certain manner. When we're in the office, we conduct ourselves in the manner. When we are within our core family, I think that's when you are your most authentic self. But when you're in with extended family, you're, you know, you're that version of yourself. And for example, for me, um, when I am with my family from the motherland, there are certain cultural, beliefs and values that are put into place, and you conduct yourself in that manner. But when I am with the crazy gang from the UK, which is the other aspect of my family, we're totally different. And then when I'm here, like this is my home base, is Canada, I'm I get to be the Canadian version of myself. So, and it's funny because like when I go to England, they go, "Oh my God, you're so Canadian." When I come to Canada, they say, "Oh my God, you're so English." But there's something about you that's not all English. And surprisingly, when I do go to India, people are going, "Oh my God, you're so different to what you were." So it's so interesting for me to be able to bounce between all those different cultures and try to maintain who I really am. But I think for me, I've always marched to a beat of my own drum. Always. Right? Even when I was little, I was I was, call it, defiant. I would put my hands on my hips and look at my parent, especially my dad, and I'd be like, "Yeah, go ahead. Like, I'll take the consequences of that, but I am not yielding." So I am right. I know I'm right, and I am standing my ground. So, yeah, and I took the consequences no matter what it was. I was a little bugger.
Yeah, that
So,
was the first word I learned. Get the chuckle.
yeah. Even my dog knows. Do you want the trouble?
I think that's
So,
interesting. So, are all of those not your authentic self? It's just a different version of you in different places based on the social expectations. But it's still, do you ever, like, authentic self is such a weird concept to me because you do have to sort of assimilate to the place that you are in socially, whatever the environment is, except home. Home should be the place where you just get to be.
I think we are, in essence, chameleons, right? So, our colors and change when we go into a different setting in order to blend in, to fit in. But when we come back to our, you know, ground zero position, then we kind of neutralize and become who we are. But for me, I can go to all of these different places and I'm energized, right? I am a people person. I like to be with people, I like to be around people. But at the same time, I'm perfectly content being at home by myself, out in nature, with my dog, loving life. So I don't have to have people around me all the time to keep me at an up. I can go to out into nature and replenish myself that way too. So I'm a little bit quirky that way, right? I don't fit quite, in one place or the other.
I think a lot
I
of
don't know.
autistic people grow up knowing that they're different from a really young age and feeling like an alien, like you don't fit in anywhere. And it's very isolating and you feel very lonely. And it's very hard to connect with people when they don't understand you. Like I've had someone say to me, "Why can't you just act normal?" So I think you go two routes. Either it becomes your hyper focus to learn to be normal, which is what I did, or you just feel terrible about yourself. And I think there are very few autistic people who just say, "Oh, this is just me." And especially I didn't have a diagnosis, so I didn't know.
One of the few people that I know that just thinks this is who I am, wears it proudly, and is not bothered by it is Alex, your son Alex. He can wear the best get-ups and go out there and totally own it. Or him and I can improv, go into, dance competition in the most unlikely places and have a ball and not worry about if people are stopping to look at us or what people think.
But Alex knew that I had his back at home. He was diagnosed at 6, and I didn't hide that from him. And we talked about it whenever he wanted to talk about it, and it never bothered him. He was like, whatever. Um, and he knew that I was really supportive of what other people would probably call quirky traits, like his autistic traits. I was supportive of that. I was like, yeah, that's how your brain works, dude. That's cool. Like, your brain doesn't need to work like everybody else's. We need variation. So, and I genuinely loved the way his brain worked. I didn't know mine worked the same way. That
Well,
took
you
a few
must have
years.
known because you got him,
But I
right?
never
You
put that
got.
together. I just thought, I don't understand why no one else understands this. I never made the connection that, oh, maybe my brain is like his. That never occurred to me until someone else pointed it out many years later. I just didn't understand why people didn't understand him because he made perfect sense to me. And I always
So
told him
that
to embrace himself. Like, that's the way your brain works. That's great. If people don't like it, that's their loss.
so you gave him the opportunity to embrace that in a manner that you were never given those opportunities.
No,
Is that
and
safe to say?
yeah, and I think a lot of late diagnosed autistic adults are in the same boat where you're just told, "Hey, there's something wrong with you. You're weird, you're whatever, and you need to change that because you're making everybody else feel a certain way." And that's not okay. Or you just get ostracized. So if you want friends, if you want to fit in, you need to learn how to assimilate.
Yeah, I was not one of those people. I really didn't care.
But how often were you told that you were wrong? Like, everything about you, the way you speak is wrong, the way you walk is wrong, the way you think is wrong.
I think that was more when I grew up in India, right? Because of that culture and those traditions over there, right? It was, yeah, I was like, I grew up, my grandfather being in the military, right? Kids were seen and not heard. It kind of metaphor. Yeah, I was always got into trouble. Always got. I was one of my grandfather's favorites because he was like, this kid is all that in a bag of chips, man. So he was, you know, yeah. I think I grew up doing that, but it didn't. I think more so my mom had my back than my dad. My dad did a lot of traveling because of work, but my mom was where kind of was my rooting place. So yeah, I would definitely say it was my mom more than anybody else. But even with my mom, I got into trouble.
Yeah, I mean,
So,
I think everybody gets in trouble. It's not like Alex never gets in trouble, but he
oh
knows that
no, I
no.
got into trouble. So, all good trouble, might I add. Yeah, I've never been arrested or in trouble with the police and nothing like that. Like for our generation, like we got into trouble for like climbing down the drain pipe at a boarding school and meeting up with your sibling and going exploring downtown kind of trouble.
Yeah,
So,
that's like a Gen X thing.
yeah. So there you go. That was my kind of trouble.
But you still had people who accepted you for who you were. Your mom accepted you for who you were. Not that you didn't make mistakes and get in trouble, but just do you see the difference? Like if I knew by grade 1 that I was not like everybody else, and I stopped speaking in class by grade 1. So by the time you're 6,
That comes to the ownership of that is placed squarely on the shoulders of society. That should not have happened to you.
but they didn't know. Nobody knew. That's the 1970s.
Yep, you're right. And I hope that we as society have evolved enough where we're not placing those burdens on neurodivergent people.
Oh, we still are. But I think the generation of kids now, at least in school, you can get accommodations if you have a diagnosis. So I think,
Which I think it's important to get that diagnosis now because it gives you a sense of belonging. Did it help you when you got your diagnosis?
well, I had already accepted autism by the time I had my diagnosis because my kids were already diagnosed. So I already fully said, "Hey, this is great. Like I don't see this as a tragedy." Even though they were diagnosed in 2010 and there was still a lot of information out there saying that autism is a tragedy and it destroys families. And I was like, I don't understand what everyone's problem is. I kind of love this. But I didn't get diagnosed until much later. What was that? What year was that? A couple of years ago.
Yeah, that was 2 years ago.
So 2023.
Yeah,
So a lot changed in 13 years.
yeah, absolutely. So that brings us to authentic self. What is it? How do you have that sense of belonging of who you are? What it is, what onion layers do you have to peel back that you've had to conform to as a result of society that has not allowed you to embrace your authentic self?
Until I got my diagnosis, I didn't understand that I masked all the time. I didn't know I had anxiety because you just think that that's just the way things are. So having a diagnosis, that's for me, that's when it started. So I didn't get sort of self-acceptance until I had that. And then I could just slowly start to put in boundaries and reduce expectations because I felt like I had to get a jail free card now that I could say, yeah, I can't do that. That is too much for me. And you still have people say, well, of course you can. Come on. It's just, lunch with a bunch of people you don't know, like 50 people you don't know, and they all love to see you and meet you and all of them. I'm like, yeah, I mean, I can do it. It's not that I can't do it. It's that I don't want to do it because I don't want to have to pay for that for the next 3 days that it takes me to decompress after that. So thanks. I don't want to go. And I can say that because I understand my needs now. And I understand that it's, hey, if someone gets mad at me for not doing something, that's too bad. I'm not going to keep breaking myself just to make someone else happy because I
So
don't
that
need to.
diagnosis, yeah, that diagnosis helped you set those healthy personal and professional boundaries.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So that's one aspect of getting to know who you are is setting those boundaries and accepting them and going, hey, if you can't accept them, so be it.
I mean, I think I really started in high school because in grade school I tried really, really hard to fit in, and it was a small school. I basically went from kindergarten to grade 8 with the same group of people, the same classmates. So if you were fighting, there was no one. You had no one. There was nobody else. And it was very lonely. So I went to a different high school than they did. They all went off to the Catholic high school and I went to the public high school. So I got to start again in grade 9. And it it took a year for me to actually make friends in high school. And at that point, I sort of embraced the fact that I was different, and I wore it like armor. So I was like, yeah, I'm different. This is me. This is what I like. And if you don't like it, that's too bad. So it was very standoffish. And it was very hard for people to sort of get close. So I was friendly
Okay.
with everyone, and everyone was friendly with me for the most part. But I only had a couple closer friends.
And that's okay. I think that's far more healthier. That would be my preference, is to have a smaller group of friends, probably two or three at the most, where you got to know them extremely well, versus having a lot of friends where you know them kind of on a superficial level. That is my preference. Not it would be my preference. That is my preference, and it is to this day. It always has been.
But those friends were separate. They weren't friends with each other. So it was never
Oh,
like the three of us got together. That was never going to happen. So I had to learn that you didn't you didn't talk about one person. Like you couldn't say, "Oh, I went with friend A out and did this on the weekend," because then friend B wouldn't be happy because friend A and B were not friends. So there was this huge juggling act. And I think when I was in high school, I observed people. And I can remember observing how certain girls were who seemed to be genuinely happy with themselves. Because I wasn't happy with myself. I didn't like myself. I just wasn't going to change who I was for other people anymore. I wasn't going to do it. I was going to just say, no, it's too bad. So I remember watching and thinking, how does anyone uh, there's this one girl who was my lab partner for something, and she was just telling stories about how she was up at her cottage and this really embarrassing thing happened, and she was just laughing about it, telling me about it. I thought, how I would never tell anyone if something really embarrassing happened to me, because I would be so afraid that I would be teased about it, because there was a lot of teasing at home, which was really unpleasant. So teasing was not fun, and it was not okay. And I thought, how does someone get to be that happy and that comfortable with themselves? So when I went to university, it was like another blank slate. And I thought I would try to imitate how these people in high school were, who were very happy and confident with themselves and very accepting of themselves. And I didn't quite pull it off. I don't think I really learned how to fix my face in a general resting face, which always looks kind
okay.
of miserable. So I would have people who were slightly scared of me because I lived in residence. And my roommate was like, I don't know why anyone would be scared of you. Like, you're really nice and like approachable and all that kind of thing. But I think my resting face, when I wasn't thinking about it, sort of put people off. So I did make some friends in university, but not only one that transferred to today. So I sort of have a small collection of people I've picked up along the way. But most of my friend base now would be people who taught my kids. Picked up a
Okay.
collection of educators,
Oh,
basically.
okay.
Because
People that
those are
can
the
relate
people,
to you.
yeah, people who understand and accept. Also, I'm pretty sure all of them are ADHD. I'm pretty sure. I'm pretty sure that's who I've collected over the years. It's a bunch of
Oh, okay.
ADHD people. Yeah, you're going for
Okay.
an assessment. You're going to do that for me. Thank you.
Are you talking about my squirrel brain again?
It's not an attack. I think your internalized ableism is preventing you from going to get an assessment done.
Yeah, it's just pure denial. Just let's face it.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, my squirrel brain. I know it's not an attack, but I'm just saying it's my squirrel brain.
It's because
I can connect dots very, very quickly.
you inherently think that there's something wrong with having ADHD. Otherwise, you would just go and get it done.
Uh, I'm not that hyper. I work with kids with ADHD, and
See?
I'm like, see, I'm not
Yeah,
that
but that's
hyper.
that's
No,
not that's not what ADHD. You don't necessarily have to have hyperactivity in order to have a diagnosis of ADHD, because ADD and ADHD are all under the same umbrella.
it is right. Yeah, my brain keeps them separate still
And
because my
ADHD
approach on them.
hyperactivity does not always present physically. You could have a hyperactive brain.
Mm,
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 maybe
mm.
my brain does. Yeah. Okay.
There it is. Okay, I will push you that on another day.
Okay.
So for me, do I accept myself now? Sure. Yep. Don't like it too bad. That's stuck with me. But do I mask? Yes. Am I going to ever completely unmask? Only at home. I think masking keeps you safe, and I think it's there's some good reasons to mask, and we have a whole episode on that. And I don't think masking means you don't accept yourself.
It's giving you the armor that you need in order to face neurotypical people.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Me. Yeah. No, I'm crazy. I get to be the best version of myself when I'm with kids because I get to be crazy with them, and I get to do all kinds of things that adults really don't enjoy doing. So,
You still put on
yeah.
your professional hat. You're not
Oh,
as
that I
crazy as
do.
you could be on this podcast.
Yes, that is very true. When I need to be professional, I'm very professional. When I'm in with my peers and my colleagues, and yeah, that's a very different side of me. But when they see me interacting with the kid, they're like, "You're crazy," and I'm like, "Yep," and they go, "We love it." So,
So, what makes you think you need to listen? What makes you think you need to be professional on this podcast? No one imposed that upon you.
no, nobody imposed that, but it's also that I'm delivering information and I try to keep it factual, accurate, um, on point as much as we can. Um, and I just want to make sure that the information that I present to people have value to it. And it's not that being crazy doesn't give you any less value, it's just that in order for me to do all of that, I have to, my mind has to be in a set pattern in order to do that. So that's why I present that information. Like I have to go to my Zen self and go, okay, let's do this. Come on.
You
Okay.
gotta hyper focus your ADHD in one direction. Is that what you're saying?
No, because we often go on tangents.
Oh no, you go on tangents, and then I circle back. You should go listen to the episodes, because I have a script, and I can say, yeah, let's pull
Yeah,
that
I
one back
don't.
in. I know.
Yeah, I don't like to script. Well, I do have all of the information, but I can bounce and weave through the information, connect them very seamlessly. Yeah.
I'm going to
Okay.
bring us back on track now. So,
Okay.
there are a lot of late diagnosed autistic people that find themselves wondering who their authentic self is after masking for so long, because you hide your autistic traits. And I think because I accepted my kid's autism diagnosis so completely that I didn't need to accept mine. Mine was relief and nothing else. It was amazing for me. And I have no regrets. I didn't sit there going, well, I wonder who I am or I'm like, no. Now everything makes sense. And I think masking is part of your authentic self, which is probably controversial. But I think it is. I think everybody does it to some degree. And I think the intensity of it, learning to set those boundaries, is what the difference is now. Learning to just
Okay.
say, no, I need a timeout. I've done socializing. My battery's empty. And I feel like people are more willing to accept those answers now. That people have a better understanding generally of what a social battery is and how it can run out.
Yeah. And I think it also just helps that by talking about that authentic self is allowing people to take that next step and saying and getting that diagnosis, um, which opens so many doors. And yeah, and we're happy to put the link on at the end of the podcast in regards to unmasking, and hopefully people can connect the dots over there. Sounds like a plan?
Yeah, I always put the links at the end.
Okay. Right now, I'd like to have a huge shout out to our listeners who have been amazing. And I'd like to be able to do our next podcast on the next steps of selective eating, to honor one of our listeners who has reached out to us and asked for further information.
Yeah, I will list all of that in the next one. But yeah, our next podcast will be on next steps for selective eating.
Okay. Until then, you have an authentically good day.
Yeah.
Look at me, look craziness
Yes,
coming out here.
There it is.
Yeah.
I think you should do it more. All right. We'll see you then.
All right. Bye for now.
Thanks for tuning in. If you know someone who might find this episode helpful, feel free to share. Also, check out our website and socials linked in the description.